Before CGI, before steroids were common, and long before Instagram fitness influencers, old Hollywood had men who looked like they were carved out of stone. These weren't camera tricks. These weren't studio illusions. These were real bodies, built with iron, discipline, and raw power. During Hollywood's golden age, studios didn't just sell charm and romance, they sold strength. Audiences wanted heroes who looked unstoppable. Men who could play warriors, gladiators, soldiers, and gods, and actually convince you they could break a man in half. Some of these stars were trained athletes. Some were champion bodybuilders. Others shocked Hollywood by building physiques that no one thought possible at the time. But here's what most people don't realize. Behind the fame, there were rivalries, extreme training routines, and bodies that terrified co-stars and impressed even professional fighters. These men didn't just act tough, they were tough. Tonight, we're counting down the 7 most muscular stars of old Hollywood's golden age, icons whose physical presence changed Hollywood forever. From Mr. Universe winners to Olympic-level athletes, from biblical epics to action legends, each name on this list was not only famous, but verified, respected, and feared for their strength. And trust me, the final name on this list shocked even Hollywood insiders. So don't blink. Don't skip. Because by the end of this video, you'll realize one thing clearly: modern Hollywood muscles are impressive, but these men were on a completely different level. Star 1, Reg Park, the man who scared Hollywood. Before Hollywood truly understood muscle, Reg Park had already redefined it. This wasn't an actor pretending to be strong, this was a real-life bodybuilding monster. A 3-time Mr. Universe, Reg Park's physique was so advanced that even Hollywood producers didn't know how to present him on screen. Standing tall with massive shoulders, thick arms, and brutal strength, Reg Park looked less like a movie star and more like a living statue. Directors quickly realized something unusual. When Reg Park entered a scene, he didn't need dialogue. His body did all the talking. He starred in sword and sandal epics like Hercules and Hercules Conquers Atlantis, where his raw power made fight scenes look frighteningly real. Co-stars later admitted that his strength was no illusion. Reg Park could lift and move props that normally required multiple crew members. But here's the shocking part: Reg Park wasn't just famous, he was influential. One young bodybuilder, watching him dominate Hollywood, decided to follow his path. That man? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold later credited Reg Park as the reason he believed bodybuilding could lead to movie stardom. And this was just the beginning. Because the next star on this list wasn't just muscular, he was an elite athlete whose body shocked even professional fighters. Star 2, Burt Lancaster, the athlete who broke Hollywood's rules. When people talk about muscular movie stars, they often imagine bodybuilders. Burt Lancaster was something far more dangerous, a trained athlete with explosive power. His body wasn't built for show. It was built for movement, impact, and control. Before Hollywood fame, Lancaster was an Olympic-level acrobat and gymnast, performing in professional circus acts. That background gave him a physique unlike anyone else in old Hollywood: broad shoulders, iron core strength, and muscles designed for speed, not posing. On screen, his movements looked violent, precise, and completely real. Directors quickly realized that Lancaster didn't need stunt doubles. He performed his own high-risk scenes, leaps, fights, and physical confrontations that other stars wouldn't even attempt. In films like From Here to Eternity and The Crimson Pirate, his strength wasn't exaggerated, it was documented. Crew members confirmed that Lancaster could outwork trained stunt teams for hours without slowing down. But what truly set him apart was intimidation. Co-stars admitted that fighting Lancaster on screen felt unpredictable, not because he was reckless, but because his athletic control made every move powerful. He didn't act tough. He moved like a man who knew exactly how strong he was. Unlike studio-built physiques, Lancaster's body aged naturally, and even in his later roles, his presence commanded respect. He proved that real strength wasn't about size alone, but about balance, speed, and discipline. And here's the twist. The next star on this list wasn't an athlete. He was a studio idol who shocked Hollywood by building one of the most powerful bodies ever seen on a leading man. Star 3, Charlton Heston, Hollywood's ultimate power icon. When Charlton Heston stepped onto the screen, he didn't just look strong, he looked untouchable. In old Hollywood, very few men had the kind of physical authority that Heston carried naturally. He wasn't a bodybuilder by title, but his build, posture, and presence made him the perfect symbol of power. Heston trained intensely for his roles, especially in large-scale epics where strength wasn't optional, it was essential. In films like Ben-Hur, The Ten Commandments, and El Cid, his body had to convince audiences that he could command armies, break chains, and survive brutal physical punishment. And it did. What made Heston different was functional strength. His broad chest, thick arms, and powerful back weren't designed for posing, they were built to endure long shooting days under extreme conditions. During Ben-Hur, Heston endured months of physically exhausting chariot training, often pushing himself beyond studio safety limits. Crew members later admitted that his stamina shocked even seasoned professionals. On set, Heston's size and seriousness created instant authority. Co-stars described him as calm but intimidating, a man who didn't need to raise his voice to dominate a room. Directors trusted him with physically demanding scenes because he looked like he could handle them, and he always did. But here's what most people forget. Heston's physique redefined what a leading man could be. Before him, muscular bodies were often side characters. After him, strength became heroic. And the next star on this list wasn't a biblical hero. He was a rebellious icon whose lean, aggressive muscle made Hollywood nervous. Star 4, Kirk Douglas, the lean muscle that terrified Hollywood. Kirk Douglas didn't rely on size alone, he relied on intensity. In an era where most leading men were polished and safe, Douglas looked dangerous. His muscular build was lean, sharp, and aggressive, giving him a physical edge that made audiences uncomfortable in the best way possible. Unlike studio-fabricated physiques, Douglas trained with a ruthless mindset. His strength came from discipline, not decoration. Thick forearms, a rock-solid chest, and powerful shoulders gave him the kind of body that didn't look staged, it looked earned. On screen, every movement felt like it could explode at any second. In films like Spartacus, Champion, and Paths of Glory, Douglas didn't just play fighters, he became them. During Spartacus, he insisted on physically demanding scenes that pushed his body to exhaustion. Sword fights, mass battle sequences, and brutal close combat shots were performed with minimal stunt assistance. Crew members later admitted Douglas trained longer and harder than actors half his age. What truly separated Kirk Douglas from others was his raw physical aggression. Directors used his body language deliberately: clenched fists, forward posture, controlled violence. Co-stars often said acting opposite Douglas felt like standing near a loaded weapon. Even when silent, his body communicated dominance. Hollywood studios were nervous about him. He didn't fit the clean-cut mold. His muscular intensity challenged the idea that a leading man had to be gentle. And that rebellion worked. Douglas became one of the most powerful stars of his time, both physically and creatively. But here's the twist. The next star on this list was taller, broader, and so physically imposing that studios redesigned entire roles around his body. And yes, his strength shocked even Hollywood insiders. Star 5, Rock Hudson, the giant Hollywood couldn't ignore. Rock Hudson was not supposed to look this powerful. When he entered Hollywood, studios wanted charm, romance, and a soft leading man image. What they got instead was a physical giant. Towering height, massive shoulders, and a thick, naturally muscular frame made Rock Hudson one of the most physically imposing stars of the Golden Age. Standing well over 6 feet tall, Hudson's size instantly dominated the screen. His chest was broad, his arms heavy, and his presence unavoidable. Even when he played romantic roles, there was always an underlying strength, a feeling that this was a man who could overpower almost anyone if pushed. Behind the scenes, Hudson trained relentlessly. Studio insiders confirmed that his workouts weren't about vanity, they were about control. Directors needed him strong enough to look believable next to soldiers, cowboys, and action heroes. In films like Magnificent Obsession, Giant, and Winchester 73, his body filled the frame in a way cameras struggled to contain. What truly set Rock Hudson apart was contrast. He could be gentle in one scene and physically dominant in the next. That duality made him dangerous and unforgettable. Co-stars admitted that standing next to Hudson made them look smaller, weaker, and less commanding, even when they were established stars. Studios eventually stopped fighting his build and started designing roles around it. Costumes were adjusted. Camera angles were changed. Rock Hudson wasn't just acting in movies. His body reshaped how scenes were filmed. But here's the part most people don't talk about. Hudson's physique helped redefine masculinity in Hollywood. Strength no longer belonged only to warriors and villains. It could be elegant, controlled, and overwhelming at the same time. And yet, the next star on this list wasn't elegant at all. He was raw, intimidating, and built like a human tank. Star 6. Victor Mature, the human tank of old Hollywood. Victor Mature didn't look strong in a polished way, he looked dangerous. In an era of refined leading men, Mature's body stood out like a threat. Thick neck, massive chest, brutal arms, this was not a studio illusion. This was a man built like he could crush someone without trying. Hollywood quickly realized that Victor Mature had something rare, intimidation that couldn't be acted. Standing tall and heavily built, his presence instantly raised attention in every scene. Directors often cast him as warriors, outlaws, and morally dangerous men because audiences believed he could dominate physically, and they were right. In films like Samson and Delilah, My Darling Clementine, and Kiss of Death, Mature's strength was a central part of his character. His portrayal of Samson wasn't symbolic, it was convincing. Crew members confirmed that his lifting scenes weren't camera tricks. His raw power reduced the need for special effects long before they existed. Off-screen, Victor Mature had a reputation. Co-stars described him as unpredictable, physically confident, and not someone you wanted to challenge. Studio insiders admitted that some actors felt genuinely uncomfortable performing fight scenes with him. His weight, reach, and force made even rehearsals feel real. What made Mature exceptional wasn't just size, it was mass. His muscles were dense, heavy, and intimidating, giving him the look of a human battering ram. Cameras loved him because they couldn't hide his power, no matter the angle. But here's the reason he's placed at number 6. As terrifying as Victor Mature was, the final star on this list was even more iconic. A man whose body became legendary, whose image defined muscular Hollywood forever. And once you hear his name, everything else makes sense. Star 7, Steve Reeves, the man who redefined Hollywood muscle. When Steve Reeves stepped onto a set, the world took notice, and not just because of his fame. He was a bodybuilding phenomenon who brought real, world-class muscle to the silver screen. A Mr. Universe winner, Reeves wasn't acting tough, he was tough, from the tips of his fingers to the power in his legs. Studios had never seen anything like him, and audiences were mesmerized. Reeves' physique was legendary. Broad shoulders, perfectly sculpted chest, rippling abs, and arms that looked capable of bending steel. But what set him apart from other muscular stars was symmetry and proportion. His body wasn't just big, it was aesthetic perfection. Every muscle flowed naturally into the next, giving him a heroic, almost mythical presence. No wonder he became the face of iconic sword and sandal epics like Hercules and Hercules Unchained. Behind the camera, Reeves trained harder than anyone expected. His workouts were rigorous, disciplined, and consistent, yet he moved with grace. On set, he could perform feats of strength that stunned crew and co-stars alike. Lifting massive props, performing fight scenes, and dominating stunts that other actors avoided entirely, Reeves made it all look effortless. But beyond physical power, Reeves had charisma combined with discipline. Directors said he could carry a scene with silent presence alone, his body speaking louder than words. Audiences didn't just admire his strength, they aspired to it. Reeves became the standard against which all muscular Hollywood stars were judged. His influence is still felt today. Arnold Schwarzenegger openly credits Steve Reeves for inspiring his pursuit of bodybuilding and cinematic fame. Reeves didn't just play heroes, he set the blueprint for what a Hollywood muscle icon could be. In the end, Steve Reeves wasn't just a star, he was the ultimate symbol of strength, discipline, and timeless Hollywood muscle.